Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Citi News.
It's 17:30 GMT. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. I am Umaru Sanda Amadou, and tonight I'm here with
Akusia Ochre.
And coming up over the next 90 minutes, latest opinion polls conducted by Citi TV and Global Info Analytics among NPP delegates puts Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in a lead, but puts Alan Chemantin in the lead should there be a runoff. We'll tell you more. Also coming up to 10 groups with focus in the education sector present a damning verdict on President Akufo-Addo's management of that sector. On the issue of building schools or eliminating schools under trees, the groups have found that the NPP government in 3 years has built or completed only 17 out of 5,400 schools and projects that at this rate, the NPP would need 300 years in office to solve Ghana's school under trees problem. And later on Eyewitness News.
Examples from recent elections would indicate that collecting centers are the most vulnerable points in manipulating elections. So it is not desirable to set up many collation points.
Dr. Kwadwo Afarijan, Ghana's longest-serving chairperson of the Electoral Commission, is speaking tonight, and he says the coalition centers are the points of vulnerability in our elections should there be a manipulation of the electoral process. We'll be hearing from him on Eyewitness News. Stay with us because we have that story and others coming up, including business.
LPG Marketers Association reiterates calls for the scrapping of taxes on the product despite projections of relative stability.
That's in 15 minutes from the Citi Business Desk. Eyewitness News is live across Ghana on a number of affiliate stations and across the globe on citinewsroom.com. The show is interactive. Join us on WhatsApp 0549 986 996. Send tweets using the hashtag Citi Newsroom. Tweet at Umaru Sanda or at Citi973. If you want to listen to us, you're planning to leave the national capital and want to listen to Eyewitness News, let me give you a number of radio stations that you can catch us on. We are on Premier 100.5 FM, Beach 105.5 FM, Sky Power 93.5 FM. All of these are in Takrady. We are also on Greener 95.9 FM in Sunyani. We are on Hammers Radio 106.5 FM in Goso. We are live on Orange 107.9 FM in Kumasi. We are on Akpini Radio 96.7 in Pando. We are on Heritage FM 107.3 FM in Hohwe. We are also on Dasuma 99.1 FM in Yendi. We are on Word 88.3 FM in Zuarungu. We are live on Westlink 88.1 FM in Laura, and we are on Eagle FM 94.1 in Wale. We are also live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are live on citinewsroom.com. This is Eyewitness News coming to you from number 11, Dr. Martin Loop in Adabraka in Accra. Let's settle for details of our stories now. And the first one has to do with opinion polling. Citi TV and Global Info Analytics has, the two together have come together to conduct a poll among New Patriotic Party delegates ahead of the primaries of the party. Now, the poll puts Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President of the land, ahead of former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kwadwo Chemantin and MP for Asin Central Kennedy Ohinye-Agyapong for the race to lead the party. More, Dr. Bawumia leads with 34.8%, almost 35% of the votes, followed by Alan Chemantin with 27.9%, which is almost 28%. So Bawumia has 35%, Alan has 28%. Kennedy Agyapong, the MP for Asin Central, is coming third with 8.5% of the votes. The rest of the candidates attracted less than 1% of the votes, while 8.9% declined to reveal who they intend to vote for, and 15.10% were undecided. Now, if there is a runoff, the poll finds that Alan Chamantin would lead Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia with 38% to 37% of the votes. 16% of the delegates were undecided and 9% declined to disclose who they would vote for in the event of a runoff. In what could be a difficult situation for the vice president, the poll finds also that 72% of delegates who voted for Kennedy Jepong in the first round would shift to Alan Chamantin in the second round. Further, 55% of other delegates who backed other presidential aspirants in the first round intend to vote for Mr. Chamantin, compared to 25% who intend to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. On the question of whether the country is headed in the right direction or wrong direction, 70% of NPP delegates said the country was headed in the right direction, while 24% believed it was headed in the wrong direction. 6% had no opinion on this. With regard to the president's job approval, so the president's approval ratings among NPP delegates, the poll found that 77% of NPP delegates approved of the performance of the president, while 17% disapproved of his performance. 6% did not have an opinion on the matter. Details on citinewsroom.com. You can see the graphs there and so on. Let's go on the phone line, and like I indicated, this is a report that was, or a poll that was put together by Citi TV. Bernard Kokwavle, general manager of Citi TV, has been speaking about that, about why Citi FM and Citi TV, for that matter, decided to join. And he says that Citi believed that there was need for a credible polling system in Ghana, so we could gauge the mood among delegates, to guide us in our news reportage and also for formulation of policy and several other reasons. Citi found that Global Info Analytics was the best group in Ghana that should be partnered with for this work, and for which reason we did that. Musa Dankwa is the executive director and head of Global Info Analytics. Mr. Dankwa, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much, Umaru Sanda.
So, for many people who observe polls, the question would be how many people were questioned? Over 200,000 NPP delegates, that's at the main election, would be deciding who leads the party. This poll of yours, who were contacted? How were they contacted? And how many were contacted?
Right. Thank you very much, Umaru. We spoke to NPP polling station executives across 271 constituencies from all the 16 regions in the country. So we selected randomly from a system that we have populated all the delegates in there, just get their phone number. So the system picks the number randomly and we call them and speak to them for their opinion. We spoke to a total of 3,570 delegates from MPP as part of this poll. The confidence level for this poll is 95%, and the margin of error is 1.63%.
I see. Now, 3,000 out of 200,000, someone would say that is an insignificant pool that you have collected. What would you say to that?
Statistically, it doesn't have any meaning in statistics, because in statistics or in polling, you can't reach everybody that you need to speak to. So you pick a sample from that population. Fortunately, the sample size we picked was determined not by us, but the system that we use. That said to us that if you want to have 95% confidence level at 1.63% margin of error, then you have to interview at least 3,571. And that's exactly what we did.
I see. Now, I have tried to give major highlights of the report to my listeners. What stood out for you?
What stood out is the fact that His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is leading Alan among delegates, as we pointed out in the poll. And then also, in the case of runoff, we find Alan leading the poll.
Explain the runoff. Explain the runoff part. What did you seek to do there?
Right. What we did was that we said to them, who do they intend to vote for in the primary? And 10 candidates were there. So they told us what they want to do. Those who didn't want to disclose who they want to vote for said so. And those who said they were undecided to said so. But then we asked them, because under the NPP constitution, if there's no clear winner in the first round, they are required to go to a runoff, which is the second and the first place candidate who go to the runoff. So we asked them, if there is a runoff, and the runoff is between Alan Chirematin and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who would you vote for? And in that question, 38% of delegates were opting for Alan, compared to 33% who were opting for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
All right. You also spoke to the delegates based on their religion, their ethnicity, and all of that. I'll ask you to shed more light on that. But how did the other persons in the race do? Or how did they fare?
In fact, they fared so badly. The 7 other contestants altogether polled less than 1%, 0.76%. So this is clearly a three-horse race between Kennedy Japan, Alan Chirematin, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
So it means that these three would have to do a lot of work, but Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is in the lead, even though Kennedy Japan's votes are that significant. He could cause a problem for the top two, you think?
Yes, definitely will cause a problem. And with this performance that we've seen, it is unlikely that the race will not head into runoff, unless those who were not disclosing their vote or undecided break heavily to one particular candidate, and that could turn the race.
And based on what you have seen, those who chose to vote for other candidates and those who chose to vote for Kennedy Japan, when it came to it and they had to choose between Alan and Bawumia, whom they did not vote for in the first round, they are electing to vote for Alan Chirematin instead.
Yes. From the poll, you could see that about 72% of Kennedy supporters in the runoff, they were opting to vote for Alan, compared to 14% who were voting for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Other candidates were very... Okay.
Please be on the line for me. I want to engage the candidates' agents so that if they have questions for you or some perspectives they want to share, you'd want to hear that. And then I'll come back to you. Let me speak to Yao Boabina Samoa. He's former MP for Adentan and spokesperson for the Alan campaign team. YB, welcome to Eyewitness News. What do you make of these reports, if you've seen the full details as we've published?
I haven't had the opportunity of reviewing all of it, but clearly, considering that Alan is yet to get into the field properly so-called, in terms of meeting polling station executives at constituency level, and considering the high numbers in percentage terms of those who are saying they are undecided, and then furthermore, considering that the inclination is to vote for Alan in the event of a runoff, I am totally convinced that it is Alan's game to win. And therefore, encouraged. We are not. My attitude to polls has been that they are useful, they are informational, and they need to be taken into account. But they are not biblical in the sense that you don't take them as the final word, but they always input. So this is quality inputs that we will take account of.
I see, but do you not worry that at least in the first round, and that's considering if anybody else does not do any better, it becomes an outright win for Dr. Bawumia?
We also conduct our own polls. If you credit us with that, we are a serious campaign. So we also have other information. Yes.
Have you done any polls?
Have you done any polls? We are very confident of winning the primary.
Have you done any polls yourself recently?
I said we are a professional campaign, and you should appreciate that given the style of Alan, we will clearly have that edge, that element to our campaign.
I'm just asking if you have conducted a poll that you'd want to share details of.
No, I can't share details with you here because it's
for your internal consumption.
Yes.
All right. Now, the fact remains that you have said that Alan has not even gone to the base yet. Bawumia, the vice president, has also not gone to the party base yet. Indeed, for the first time, he's publicly announcing that he's in the race by saying that he would go and submit his forms tomorrow. So it appears that you are all operating on the quiet for now. Alan Chemantin is coming second. Kennedy Japan is coming third. Do you worry about his involvement in the race and how he's doing?
Umar, anybody tells you the vice president is not campaigning, he's not telling you as it is. He has teams on the ground. He has government appointees going around offering incentives, the carrot and stick campaign that he's conducting. There are those who are being threatened to follow through. There are those who are being promised all manner of things. There are teams of government appointees and party leaders going around the country working on his behalf regularly and constantly. So it's not about he himself. He's campaigning. He's campaigning seriously with government resources and government personnel, government appointees, moving around the country with him, trying to get delegates to accept him, trying to get delegates to accept him as the candidate. All this is part of the impact that you see in the polling, that people feel that, well, if I'm asked, it may be safer for me to say it this way rather than to say it that way. So there are things happening on the ground that you as journalists must also look out for.
Yeah, but because you have said that Alan has not started his campaign, I'm just drawing your attention that Bawumia also has not started his campaign, and believe that you have deployed teams to the ground just as
we haven't done that. We are determined to meet the people in the person of Alan himself, and that's what we are going to do next after filing. Alan is going to meet the people. Alan is the candidate, and he's the one we're going to show off. He's the one who is going to engage. And wherever he's engaged, the mileage is tremendous. Wherever he engages, the mileage is tremendous. So he's going to engage at constituency level. We've already engaged at national level. We went around the regions. Now we are going to engage at constituency level. So considering that he's yet to step in there, and he has that kind of favorability rating, then when he does step in there, you will see it shoot up very high. But being that as it is, it's a campaign, and it's a competitive campaign. So we are competing with all the arsenal at our command, all the goodwill we can mobilize and summon. And that is our focus. Our focus is to win.
But do you also think that based on his longevity in this race since 2007, he should be in the lead as a front runner? Do you not worry about that?
I just told you that even without being having met the people others are meeting, he's doing appreciably well. So as for that, it's competition. And I've also told you that there are those who look you in the eye and tell you that I may vote for somebody because they feel compelled to say so. And in their heart, they'll be voting for somebody else. Those are the dynamics you must look at. I'm not going to try and justify any positions. We know what is happening on the ground.
Okay.
Because we are working on the ground. We understand what is happening. Somebody who has a vote and is asked about it and is under some sort of pressure from somewhere, will play safe. Either they will say, I'm not decided, or they will tell you that I'm voting for the one you think you want me to hear. You want to hear me say I'm voting for. All those dynamics at this time impact us.
So you're suspecting that the Alan votes or voters feel suppressed or have been suppressed?
I am confident that Alan will win this primary and consequently go on to win the vote in Ghana. Well, the basic message remains the same. And the first poll had that metric. I'm surprised this metric didn't have it. This poll didn't have that metric about who Ghanaians would prefer to lead them beyond the MPP delegates.
Because you have to cross the first hurdle of your party before you can.
The same Global Info Analytics had a metric like that before, where he said that Ghanaians prefer Allah. So this one, he didn't bring that. So I'm not even referring to that. But delegates are aware of sentiments in the country about who they would rather have as the next president of the country. So I think we should just proceed on the basis that it's competitive.
Okay.
We are working very, very hard, and we expect to win this primary.
There is something else that the poll did, which is to ask people why they chose the candidate they chose. There are various blocks that were used. Now, the first one that people would vote for a candidate, they chose competence. So why would you vote for this candidate? Is it because of his competence? Yes. They ask, is it because he has worked hard for the party? That's the second group of people. The third group believe it is because of the integrity of the candidate. The fourth group, we're talking about the economy, better manage the economy. The fifth group is looking for a credible candidate. The sixth one is looking for it is his time, a drone so, and I'm going to come back to that. The seventh says they want a unifier. Then others have various reasons. That's the last one. When it comes to the Edru Nusu, which is what you have been pushing as is Alan's time, when the delegates were asked whether they would vote for a candidate because it is their time, only 6% of the respondents said yes, that's why they would vote for a person. That should be some stones being thrown in your garri for you.
It reinforces exactly what I'm saying. We don't just say Adunusu for Adunusu saying sake. It is not from us, the campaign. It's organic. It's from the ground. Wherever Alan goes, that's what they tell him. That's what delegates are telling him. Why? Because it involves the competence, it involves the service, the party, it involves the vision for the future. Adunusu is not just about Adunusu, it's not just a mere queue. Adunusu because of certain factors. Those factors include longevity of service to the party, it includes competence, it includes the output for us in government, and it includes the vision. But like I said, if you have such a poll and you ask somebody who knows very well that Adunusu is associated with Alan, whether or not you will vote for and favor a metric like Adunusu, the person will check themselves up and down and decide. So, bottom line is that we are conducting a solid campaign. And we know we're on the right path. We'll peak at the right time, and we will win this primary.
Very well. Thank you. Before you go, though, something that I've just noticed, your candidate from the poll hasn't done as well in the Eastern and Ashanti regions. I don't know if you have a reason for that, what you want to talk about.
No, I'm not sure. I haven't even...
You haven't looked at... Okay, so I'll leave you to look at the nitty-gritties so that we can talk about it later.
Yeah, so I'll actually take my time to interrogate it thoroughly.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
We'll leave it to that. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
My pleasure, bro.
That's Yao Boabina Samoa, former member of parliament for Adenta and spokesperson of the Alan Chamantin campaign team. Let me go back. I still have Musa Danko on the line. Musa, so for Alan's side, they believe that this is a victory in a sort for them. They've not even started the campaign on the ground, and they are doing that well. Do you think that they ought to be jubilating, or there should be something they should be concerned about?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you. The campaign team for Alan believes he hasn't even done anything yet, and they're already doing well in the poll and possibly even winning a second round. I'm saying that should they be comfortable at this stage?
Nobody should be comfortable with this result, to be very honest with you. You need to understand the mindset of those who said they are undecided. They have to be targeted very well. You have to shape the campaign message that really resonates very well. They should also look at the key factors or the key reasons why people are making their choices, and then see how they can position the campaign messages around those issues. So those are the things they should be doing. The numbers, both of them, I mean, both Alan and Baumi. Baumi is in the lead, not comfortably. Alan is right behind him, and he needs to both have to really shape their campaign, to be very honest with you.
Okay, but again, they say that they have not even started the campaign. Do you get the sense, based on talking to the people, that they have not been reached by these candidates as yet?
No, we didn't ask them whether they've been spoken to or reached to by any of the candidates. We just spoke to them directly and see what their views are. So we can't say whether they've been engaged or not. But clearly, some of them have been engaged. Some of them have been engaged there.
Interesting. All right, let me cross over to the other line, and please be on the line for me. Let me speak to Dennis Miracles Abuaji. He's with the Dr. Mahmoud Baumia campaign team. He's a former municipal chief executive. Miracles, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. I don't know, do I have Miracles? Okay, I do not have Miracles. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. On the line with Musa Dankwa of Global Info Analytics. I'll be back with him shortly, but that'll be after this break.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
You know your papa see that? And it's rickety car. Hey, papa! Bobo!
Bobo, so how your engine now?
It is half man, half amazing. Thanks to Quartz and you can feel better energy. Can't touch this. Tell you guys, so Sancho's engine just died like that? Yes, so somebody managed to convince him that there is a better engine oil than Quartz. And he switched. Sancho Panzapa. Now, which engine oil can be better than Quartz? No other, my guy. Quartz with its age-resistant technology, it keeps your engine younger for longer. Now you know. Have you guys seen the new bottle design? It's superb. Quartz 9000 from Total Energies there improves fuel efficiency. Why do you think Mr. Mane and Logoso have taken the Quartz Nation movement World Cup like that? Hey, sorry. Chairman Omani. Chairman. Hey, Quartz. Keep your engine younger for longer.
Using a condom will protect you and your partner from HIV, STIs, and unplanned pregnancy. Condoms are an effective way for protection against HIV infection. Don't take risks. Use a condom every time. Always come prepared.
This advert is brought to you by the Ghana AIDS Commission and Ghana Health Service.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
You're welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Adabraka in Accra. The big story tonight we are looking at is actually the front page story on citynewsroom.com. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia in the lead in a latest poll conducted. That poll was conducted by Global Info Analytics as well as Citi TV. And he found that should the NPP delegates go to the polls today, this is the standing, 34% would want to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, while so 34.8, almost 35% would vote for Dr. Mahmoud Baumia out of the sample that was contacted. Alan Chemantin to get some 28%. Let's speak to, we've already heard from Dr. Musa Dankwa. He's executive director of the Global Info Analytics. He's still on the line with me. We've heard from Yao Boabina Samoa of the Alan Chemantin campaign team. Let's now go to Dennis Miracles Abuaji. He's former MCE in presidential staff and also a member of the Dr. Mahmoud Baumia campaign team. Miracles, you've seen the highlights of the poll. What do you make of it as a campaign team?
Good evening, Mario. I think that for us, we're very focused. We have over 200,000 party executives that we are counting on to win this primaries. And so we are very focused on each of the 200,000 voters, sending a message to them. We are giving them reasons why we believe that the vice president is the right person to lead a new patriotic party into the next elections. We do not, however, discount any form of research or survey. What we do is to look at it in spite of where it's coming from, so long as it has some credibility. And then we'll review, especially not the numbers, but the commentary that comes with the survey, and then we would adjust accordingly. The most important thing is to improve. It's a process that we are going through from now till August 26th and then subsequently November 4th. And The objective is to be able to understand how we're doing as a campaign and make sure that we are touching base with each of the voters and giving them compelling reasons why he should be the vice president. We've seen the survey. There are several surveys that are ongoing, several being done from various quarters. We would not discount any of them, but the numbers are not so important to us at this point. What is very important to us would be the commentary that comes with these. And once we look at them, review them, and we find them useful, we would adjust accordingly to make sure we are getting things right.
Talking about numbers, the numbers put your candidate in the lead, but it's not a comfortable lead. Should that worry you, or you're fine for now?
I think, like I said, we have a 200,000 voters to go for. I'm sure some of these surveys do a lot of sampling. I'm sure by the time I haven't seen the details of it, but you'd realize that they may not probably have even done 10% of the electoral college. And so the numbers for us at this point, it would really be the numbers that will come out on the day of election. That is what we're really keeping our eyes on. What is crucial now is that what are some of the comments that is coming out of these surveys? This is not the only survey we have seen. There are several that have even been sent to us privately that we are reviewing. And so we are looking at the issues they're in. Don't forget, the vice president hasn't even of yet made that final declaration that he is going to contest. That will happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., God willing, tomorrow at the party headquarters, the vice president will finally submit his forms. And then that is when his official declaration will be done. And then he would now step forward to campaign to the people. And so if at this point he hasn't even campaigned yet, the vice president hasn't gone around to any of the polling station executives to campaign to them yet. And so if the numbers are looking this way, and then we're quite optimistic that once he gets down there and starts engaging them and sending his message across, we should be able to even improve much more than we are doing now. Because so far, the vice president is the only candidate of all the ones who have picked the forms that has not yet gone out to campaign. And I think that is quite instructive. But like I said, we take a cue from the survey, we pay attention to what the details are, and then we only review to improve.
But the Eyewitness, someone who I spoke to a short while ago, said even though the vice president is not directly campaigning, government officials are across the country campaigning for him. So if after all of that, he still doesn't lead comfortably or takes a commanding lead, that only means that they are doing well, they are campaigning. And again, looking at the analysis that have come through, it appears that a lot of the people who are voting for Kennedy Pong and those who have not decided, if it comes to a runoff, they say they would vote for Alan Chemantin and not your candidate. What do you make of that?
I mean, congratulations to Bobby Asamoah. I suppose he speaks for Mr. Alan Chemantin, right?
Yes, it does.
Exactly. So if Mr. Chemantin has declared his intention so many months ago, I don't like to pick on candidates, but I mean, I just respond to this particular one. If he has declared his intention, done the State of the Nation address and gone out there, been campaigning out there himself to the delegates over the months, and he feels that in spite of all of that, where he is okay for him. I mean, congratulations to him. The vice president hasn't campaigned yet. On this issue of government appointees campaigning, we welcome a lot more. I mean, there are government appointees following Mr. Samoah's campaign, several of them, and I'm sure you've seen them. The Deputy Finance Minister is there. There are board chairmen who are there. There are members of parliament who are following him. I think sometimes they talk about these things because the numbers are small. So if you have 3 MPs following you and there are 135 MPs following another candidate, and then you leave the 3 MPs and you come and complain about 135, it becomes difficult. If you have 3 ministers following you and then you don't talk about that, where you come and complain about, let's say, 100 ministers following another candidate, it becomes difficult. We are even campaigning and working towards getting the 3 or 4 ministers who are following him. And we are working and campaigning to get the 3 MPs who are following him. Our work, our focus is to get every minister who has a vote. Don't forget, they have votes. Every member of parliament that has a vote, every constituency chairman, regional chairman, police station chairman, police station secretary, women organizer, police station organizer, every single voter in this party is important to us. And so we welcome all of them. We welcome all the government appointees who have voted and believe in the vice president. We welcome all the non-government appointees who are also campaigning for the vice president. And we're encouraging more of them to step out there to campaign. But the vice president himself will step out tomorrow, starting from tomorrow, to now go out there and talk to the people. And so if even without him, and just for the fact that people who love him and people who are voters, according to your Babia Samoa, are going out voters, are going out campaigning for the vice president, I pray he actually is able to get a lot more voters to go out to campaign for his candidate. But we are not focused on any candidate. We are not interested in what another candidate is doing. We are focused on the 200,000 voters. Government officials who have voted, non-government officials who have voted, regional chairmen, regional executives, constituency chairmen, constituency executives, polling station chairmen. They are the people we are counting on, and we are asking a lot more of them to even continue to campaign for us as they are doing.
Is Alan, not Alan, is Kennedy Japong a threat to your campaign? Do you get that sense? Because the polls suggest that in the event of a runoff, all those who are going for Kennedy Japong, and he's done so about 12% of the vote, are going to go for Alan Chemantin and not your candidate.
We think that all the candidates are a threat to us. We are not underrating any candidate. It is an election. You may not. We would not sit down and say that all the 10 or 11 persons from this party who have taken the forms are people who can win or lose the elections. And so our focus is on everybody and exploiting everybody's weaknesses and making sure that we have the strength that we need to be able to overcome these people. We are not focusing on any particular candidate. We are focusing on all the 10 or 11 candidates. And we believe all of them are a threat to us. And that is why I said that we are focused on the 200,000 voters. Ours is to ensure that every single day we get more people joining our campaign, because we believe that the vice president is the one that will be able to move and lead this party into the next election. So I hear you. I see the numbers. I see the figures. I see the survey. But Kennedy Japong, Alan, Kwabene Japong, all of them are candidates that we see as a threat, and we are working towards overcoming each of the 11 candidates or 10 candidates without necessarily ignoring any of them.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Maru.
That's Dennis Miracles Abuaji. He's former MCE and presidential staffer. He's also a member of the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia campaign team. Let me conclude with Musa Dankwa. Musa, both sides are claiming victory in this particular poll of yours. Any advice to them before we end this conversation?
More, we don't advise political advice, I'm afraid. They have better advice than us. We believe that they can see the numbers, they can read the numbers, and whatever thing they think they can do to enhance their chances is up to them. Umaru.
Umaru, yes, not more Umaru. Moving forward, what should we expect next?
I think this partnership will continue with Citi FM. We believe that that's the way to go. I mean, media houses should be able to partner credible polling organizations, deliver good content, to see and to gauge the mood of the country and even among the leaders. So I think that's the way to go. We'll be doing this. The next poll for us will be July, or the July tracking poll among all voters. We can see whether the views of voters are in line with what delegates are saying.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
It's my pleasure.
That's Musa Dankwa. He's with Global Info Analytics as the Executive Director and Head. So if you're just joining us, the big story is that Global Info Analytics and Citi TV conducted polls. In the polls, 35% of the respondents who are NPP delegates say that they would vote for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, 28% say they would vote for Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen, and 12% say they would vote for the Asin Central MP Kennedy Ejapong. I'm just looking at Kennedy Ejapong's Twitter timeline now. This morning he tweeted and said, I am ready to lead this country. It has 788 retweets, number of impressions, 261,000 impressions. Now, in the few hours ago, he tweeted and said that I will beat John Mahama hands down in the 2024 elections. That has 246,000 impressions, 804 retweets. And just by way of information to you, this is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Your messages that have been coming through. Robert in Achimota says, I think the MPP delegates are currently hungry And Bawumia has the money to feed them, so they'll put their support behind him for now, but the real day would tell. Baba Chairman in Tamale says, please mark it on the wall. Dr. Bawumia shall emerge as a victor in a landslide victory, BMW all the way, or DMB. More messages. General Ortega says, among all the candidates, it's only Alan that has integrity and gravitas to seek the mandate of the party supporters. However, the collateral damage by the Akufo-Addo government to his chances is unsurmountable. The Nanado regime has caused an interminable damage to their tradition. Jones Adeboinla says, I'm only commenting because my favorite station, Citi FM, is involved and their credibility is not in doubt. Otherwise, we care less about whoever leads the MPP. The value is the same. Prince Henry from Koforidua says, as for we in the NDC, we wish the NPP very well in their flag bearer race. Whoever the NPP presents, the NDC would defeat him because the NPP has really failed Ghanaians woefully. The future is pregnant. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We'll return with more. Please stay.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244-308-111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
A former chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kwejo Afarijan, has tipped collation centers as the most vulnerable points for election manipulation in the electioneering process. This, according to him, is as a result of the over-reliance on technology in the tabulation of results. Elections in Ghana have always been a subject of controversy, with allegations of malpractices during the collation of results. In the 2020 general election, issues of collation challenges in Techiman South resulted in disturbances that led to the loss of lives. Speaking at a forum to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Dr. Farijan advocated for inclusion of technology in the collation of results rather than the creation of many layers of centers.
The most compelling need for technology in the pre-election phase is to be able to accurately capture the unique physical features along with the demographic data of persons being registered to vote. Various forms of technology are used, but I think this is the key technology that we need at the pre-election. This information helps to prevent multiple registration, multiple voting, and impersonation, thereby mitigating the incidence of voter fraud. On election day, ideally, technology should make it possible to achieve three purposes. One, to use data collected during registration to confirm that a prospective voter is the same person who registered to vote. Two, to keep a record of the time each voter was verified to vote. And three, to send the results of tabulation to tabulation centers in real time. Ideally, this is the configuration that you need on election day. Now, the post-election. The most important activity in the post-election phase is the tabulation or collation of the votes obtained by the candidates who contested the election. This activity is, as at now, heavily human-driven and requires only rudimentary technologies for accurately adding up figures and, where applicable, transmitting the results. So voter tabulation sounds like a simple and straightforward activity. However, examples from recent elections would indicate that collating centers are the most vulnerable points in manipulating election results. So it is not desirable to set up many collation points in the results management process.
So that was Dr. Kwejo Afarijan. He's a former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Ghana.
PNK Abrampa is with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers of the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. He's a programs officer. Mr. Abrampa, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. Coalition centers are necessary, but they are also the trouble spot. You've heard the former chairman, the most experienced person at the Electoral Commission by longevity, speak. How do we deal with this matter? He says there's no need for more coalition centers in the future.
Well, good evening, and let me take this opportunity to say a very good evening to our listeners. Yes, you know, the tension of every election day is the results. Everybody comes to vote and goes home, and his interest, the voters' interest, the candidates' interest, the party's interest, everybody's interest is how their candidates are faring in the elections. So that is the moment of tension, the moment of anxiety, the moment of expectation. And you know, in any activity that culminates in a particular spot of tension, that's where manipulation, misunderstandings, propaganda, everything comes up. So he was just expanding already existing theories and already existing knowledge as what happens in the electoral process and where we have to take particular attention. CODIO's 2020 elections post-election review document and statement highlighted it, and especially the additional creation of the regional coalition centers. Yeah, so it's a fact, and it's something that has been happening. And when you witness some of the big cases that happened on the election day, especially the shooting incident that happened at Techima that led to the death of 2, it was at the coalition center. So it's something that he's speaking from experience, that is what he's witnessed, and also supported by facts and evidence as to where most of the problems come from.
Now, the vexed issue ahead of the elections, the next big issue is the use of the Ghana card as a sole source document. The Electoral Commission is insistent. In fact, the representative who was at this program today insisted that it must be the Ghana card. As a coalition interested in our election space, what do you make of the stance of the EC on this matter?
No, so we issue statements at the peak of the controversy when the Electoral Commission sent their request for approval of the CI, which was referred back to the Commission. 2 things. One, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, as any other interested party in Ghana's elections, support a system that will reduce confrontations, that will reduce manipulations, and that will reduce conflicts around our electoral process. And when you look at the 3 phases of the electoral process, the pre-election, the election day, and the post-election, the phase that records most of the controversies and violence is the pre-election phase, and the activity that brings the controversies and violence is the registration. People accuse people of barring people from unknown places to particular registration centers, facilitating the registration of minors and foreigners and other things using unacceptable or dubious cards. So we support any process that will seek to improve the registration of voters, that will reduce the associated violence and confrontations. But we are also not at home with any process of the electoral activity that would reduce the number of voters who have access, because the Constitution says the Electoral Commission should seek to facilitate the process so that every qualified Ghanaian can have access to register and vote. Yes, so we like the improvement of the system, but we're also cautious to advise the Electoral Commission to pace gradually so that as many Ghanaians as possible are able to get the qualified identity that will facilitate their registration. So it's a dicey situation for Kodio to say yes or no, but we are giving the window as to what should happen. So if the Electoral Commission thinks, as Parliament is demanding, that most of qualified Ghanaians will not have access to the required identity, which they say it should be only the Ghana card, then they will have to rethink. But if they think by the time they start the registration, and I'm cautious in saying by the time, because don't forget, we have the DLE, the district level elections this year. And we're expected to allow qualified voters who have turned 18 or who have just returned to the country to vote. Other than that, if we don't do the registration before we go to the polls, people will sue Electoral Commission and they will win. Because they have turned 18, we've not facilitated the process for them to get into the register to vote. So we need to expedite action on that. We need to take a quick decision between the Parliament and the Electoral Commission as to what common grounds we can come up so that we are able to have the CI facilitate the process. The district level election should be held by December so that the mandate of the current 7 assembly members, which expires in January, I think they were sworn in January, to pave the way for new ones to come. Otherwise, we are still going to have what happened to us in 2014, 2015, that we had a vacuum. The court, Benjamin Ayimensah took us to court, and we could not hold the election as expected. So we need to have the common grounds quickly so as to facilitate the process of the Electoral Commission to go ahead with the preparation of the DLE.
Thank you so much for your time. That's PNK Abrampa. He's with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO. He's a programs officer. Let's do something quickly in education sector. Now, a group of CSOs interested in the education space has issued a statement today. It's a report of a sort, a verdict on the government's performance in the education sector. A number of them, Action Aid, GNEC, a number of them. The one who is going to speak to us tonight on that is Dr. Ernestina Tete. She's project manager with Star Ghana Foundation. Doc, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. What jumps at me, looking at your verdict, is that the government has failed in terms of eliminating schools under trees. Is there more that you can share with us briefly?
Thank you, Umaru. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. Umaru, if you say the government has failed, that would be harsh, because that wasn't what we are trying to purport. What we are saying is that 3 years ago in 2021, there was a program launched that the ministry reported that there were 5,400 schools under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures. And that there was a drive to eliminate all of these and then replace them with proper or the required infrastructure by 2025. What we were saying in this report is that it's going at a rather slow pace, because within 3 years of the promise, or not within 3 years, 2 years, from 2021 to this time, only 17 of these have been completed. And what we are saying is that this is too slow, and if it's we are going to go at this pace, it's going to take so many years for us to get that resolved or that situation sorted. And that is why, as part of this press conference, we are highlighting this and also urging government to increase the pace, because at least it was out of goodwill that government decided to do this. So just increase the pace so that the target is met, because the situation is really dire. That's what we're trying to project.
I see. You talked about other aspects. You talked about the textbooks or the lack of them. Tell us more on what you found.
Yeah, what we found was that there's been a new curriculum for basic education specifically the junior high schools. And 4 years within the development of the curriculum, there are no textbooks accompanying 7 of the subjects. And the 3 subjects that have the textbook is woefully inadequate, where so many students, up to about 4, may have to share one. And what we are saying is that it's been 4 years, and this is not acceptable, because then teachers are in a bind. How do you teach the new curriculum without the accompanying textbook? So it begs to question what is actually being taught or what is being done, and how these children are being prepared to be examined or tested on the new curriculum. So that was also another, it was all, we wanted to say it out loud that it is not acceptable. I mean, some of these things should have been provided even before the curriculum was introduced. So let's say it wasn't, and the curriculum has been introduced. It's been 4 years, and it's not acceptable that 7 out of the 10 subjects do not have the textbooks, and we don't know when they're going to be ready, and that is not acceptable.
Thank you, madam. We'll make time for more on this particular discussion, but thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome, Omaro. Thank you, too.
That's Dr. Ernestina Tete. She's project manager, Star Ghana Foundation. We have to make way now for Netili Neti with business news, and then we have the on-air series of the Citi Business Festival. Please stay with us.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Get the details. Every significant financial transaction, every market movement, and all the policies that affect your business. Citi Business News. Be informed.
Time now for Citi Business News on Eyewitness News, powered by citibusinessnews.com. Let's settle for the details now. The Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers Association of Ghana is still pushing for the scrapping of taxes on LPG or the subsidization, despite projections of a relative stability in the price of the product in the next pricing window. Although the prices of petrol and diesel are expected to go up on Friday, June 16, 2023, that of LPG will remain unchanged. Currently, LPG is expected to sell at 10 Cedi 40 pesos per kilogram, but the association insists that this is high and will remain so if the excessive taxes are not removed. Gabriel Kumi is the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana.
We are not looking at reduction. We are looking at a total scrapping of the taxes on LPG. It doesn't make sense that a product whose consumption you want to increase, you go ahead and put taxes on the product. You can't eat your cake and have it. If you want to increase consumption of a product, a consumable product like LPG, the only way out is to take measures to bring its price down so that you can attract a lot more people into the consumption. We certainly support this call. We have been making this call since 2017 when we realized that the LPG price has started shooting up. We started making that call that the taxes government has put on the product must be removed if government really is interested in ensuring that we increase consumption and penetration. We've been very consistent and persistent on this call.
That was the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana, Gabriel Kumi. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, wants government to ensure that the recent rise in inflation rate is reversed. Inflation went up for the first time this year, rising from 41.2% in April to 42.2% in May after declining for 4 times. In an interview with Citi Business News, Dr. Joseph Obeng said, though the increase will not have any significant impact on the business community, more needs to be done to ensure the trend is not sustained.
The increment of utility bills, the increase in the utility bills and all that has also add up to cost of doing business. And that's why we couldn't get any, monetary policy rate is still at where it is, meaning that cost of doing business is still very high. That's why we couldn't see any reduce the inflation rate, and it's very unfortunate because we are thinking that after receiving the IMF money and then the program having come successfully, the initial positive speculations that came and all that, the confidence that have been built up was going to see to the other indicators also following suit, like the exchange rate, the inflation, and then the interest rate. And all of these indicators have not improved since we clinched the IMF deal. It's a marginal increase increase inflation, I don't think it will have any adverse increase in prices. It's very negligible.
That was the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, Dr. Joseph Obeng. And that's it for Citi Business News and Eyewitness News. It was powered by citibusinessnews.com. My name is Nete Ajahu. Have a good evening.
You know your papa see that? And it's rickety car. Hey, papa!
Bobo, so how your engine now?
It is half man, half amazing. Thanks to Quartz and you can feel better energy. Can't touch this. Tell you guys, so Sancho's engine just died like that? Yes, so somebody managed to convince him that there is a better engine oil than Quartz. And he switched. Sancho Panza. Now, which engine oil can be better than Quartz? No other, my guy. Quartz with its age-resistant technology, it keeps your engine younger for longer. Now you know. Have you guys seen the new bottle design? It's superb. Quartz 9000 from Total Energies there improves fuel efficiency. Why do you think Mr. Mane and Logoso have taken the Quartz Nation movement World Cup like that? Sorry. Chairman. Hey, Quartz. Keep your engine younger for longer.
City 97.3. Accra.
Welcome to another edition of the On Air series for the Citi Business Edition. This week we're focusing on SMEs. And today we're talking about how to build a winning SME team. My guest is one of our favorites from Busara, Africa, in the person of Taka. Taka, good to have you.
I'm always excited to be here with you, Bernard.
You're always up to something. Always up to something. How are you doing?
I'm well, busy,
Wonderful.
but well.
Helping people develop.
Yes, indeed. Bringing out the best in them as leaders.
Wonderful. And you are a people person. So
yes.
your organization adds value to people.
For sure.
Wonderful.
For sure.
We want to talk about SMEs and team building. Usually when we talk of team building, we discuss big teams.
Yes.
So large organizations, they talk organizational development. But I feel SMEs, the ones I interact with, they struggle with keeping people.
Yes.
And a lot of my friends who run SMEs say, Bernard, how do I train somebody, I get him into the team, he gets all the skills, and then he disappears.
Yes.
So so maybe we need to start thinking about these small organizations and how they manage people as well.
Yes, indeed. And maybe one of the things we also need to think about is when people come and go, it's how do you institutionalize knowledge, culture, systems, processes, so that everything is not dependent on one person. And that's usually the challenge we have as SMEs. It's all about one person who has all the skills in their heads. So I think that's a key thing. We need to institutionalize, put systems in place so that as people come and go, and that will happen. That's just a reality. People come in, you can't pay them as much, they move into bigger institutions. So recognize that we're at your level. You may be a stepping stone to other organizations. You make peace with that and just make sure that you don't lose when they move on.
We've had a bit of that, and I'll ask you about that later. But let's start with definitions. When we say a winning team, what do we mean?
Okay. So it's also important to distinguish between a team and a group. And so I would say a team, a group of people who perform interdependent tasks to achieve a shared goal. So people just sitting in an office all together, that doesn't necessarily make them a team. So if they have a shared purpose and they're somewhat interdependent. So they could be functional. So the production, your whole production group here, I see, could be a team because they're particular sales department. That's a functional group. Or a team could be a group that you pull together here at Citi FM to say, okay, we're having the boot camp. So we need about 4 or 5 people who are going to be focused for 5 months to plan, execute, and they may come from different departments to make it happen. That's a team that's focused around a task. So that's what we mean by a team. Now, you really asked me about a winning team because not every team is a winning team. Some are very dysfunctional teams.
Yes.
So 3 things make a team a winning team. Number 1, they achieve sustained results.
Okay.
So not just results today, hey, hi, and then things go wrong and then they can't. So achieve sustained results. Number 2, they maintain team resilience. Because we recognize no matter what challenges will come. So when challenges come, how resilient is the team to be able to bounce Not just back, but forward. And the final thing, they're vital. And this is important in terms of, when I mean they have vitality, let me clarify that. It means they have a lot of positive energy. And the reason I emphasize this, Bernard, is because I've seen teams that can achieve results, but they're toxic. I mean, by the time people have worked with that team to put on a show, to achieve this thing, they're burnt out, they're stressed, and they're on verge of... That's not the kind of vitality that we're talking about.
I like the resilience, because that suggests they've been through challenges.
Yes.
And they've been through fights together.
Yes.
And they're still... So it means a team... one of the ways in which a group becomes a team is also overcoming adversity together.
For sure. And learning how to do that, because that's not always self-evident.
So as I said, some of the leaders I talk to complain about different things, but have you been able to isolate some of the key challenges leaders have with teams?
Yes. Lots, for sure. But let me bring out 3 that I've seen. One of the first ones is, and I may ask you if you've had to deal with this one before, particularly given the business that you're in, is managing star players or divas who won't play nice. They don't collaborate, they're egocentric, they don't deliver, they deliver results, so we don't hold them accountable. Do you know, I remember one of the toughest questions you asked me. It could have been about 7 years ago, and you said, Taka, what do you do? And you asked me, Taka, do you watch football? And then you said, what do you do in a situation where you have one player who always scores goals, but in terms of values, he treats the other players like dirt, he doesn't share, he doesn't respect time. But they deliver results.
What do you do?
What do you do? And it's the same thing I've seen sometimes in this business. So you may have one key host or a key person.
Look, I used to be like that a lot. So usually morning show hosts are the prima donnas.
There you go.
So the MD will not shout at you because you're the goose that lays the golden egg.
There you go.
So when sales comes with a challenge, you are always difficult to work with.
There you go.
Programs, there's always tension, and sometimes the host can play between the two sides. So sales want to drive numbers, programs also want audience, and then you have the host basically just incorrigible.
There you go.
But because his personality is so strong, people listen. So a lot of morning show hosts have that tendency. So I can say for many years I was...
Oh, wow.
So, and of course, as you mature into the job, you sort of get and then there are different ways of honing that. But
so
I won't even point fingers.
Look at yourself.
I am that
man. You were that
I was that man.
You see? And it's powerful that you have matured beyond that, but many don't. So you can imagine what a headache that was at the time to manage you, because you bring in revenue. So it keeps leaders awake at night. So that's one. So the divas, prima donnas.
Okay.
The second one is about managing conflict within the team. And there are all kinds of conflicts. There's task-based conflict, where as long as you and I are interdependent, because that's the whole thing about being in a team. So in order for me to achieve results, I need you to do X, Y, Z. So if you don't do it, then I'm drop the ball. So it's those kinds of conflicts. There's work style conflicts. You can imagine I might be a lastminute.com type person, whereas you might be somebody who wants things done early. That might bring a conflict, but also personalities. So managing inherent conflict that comes by just having people who are different, doing different things, that's another huge stress. And what I see too many leaders do is they avoid. They just don't deal with it. So it becomes bigger issues. So that's one. That's the second. The third big one I've seen is where there's a lack of trust within the team. So little things start fostering, they become issues, then people don't trust each other. They don't share information, they don't feel like each other have their back. So you as a leader, you come and you're like, why was this thing not done? And they're like, oh, well, so-and-so didn't share information. When you start to ask, well, why didn't they share information? Why didn't you help so-and-so out? Somehow they don't trust each other. So those are some of the common challenges.
My reflection on that, for the issue of conflict, as you said, you try and deal with it when it's small before it gets big.
That's it.
So a lot of times when you notice that this could become a problem, we don't wait for it to get big. That's what I try to do. Because don't forget, I work with a team I work with many teams, hosting a morning show for almost that number of years.
Yeah.
So one of the things is there could be conflict. Maybe this guy, he interrupted this guy during the show and he didn't get a bad... So you try and resolve. So usually when you have like a daily post show meeting,
yes,
you don't allow the issue
to fester.
Exactly.
This is it. So it's a key learning as a leader to deal with issues early.
When they are early.
When they're small.
When they're small.
Early and small, and sometimes at the right time.
Yes.
You know, don't delay, but wait for the right time.
You're right. Because sometimes, so you need to pick the best time.
Yes.
So because there are times maybe the mood is still
too
sore.
bad. Yes.
So when the person's in a good mood. And then the other thing about trust is, I feel like the most important attribute a leader needs is trust.
Yes.
So especially within my team, if they don't trust that I mean well, or that I have thought about what they want to do. So sometimes I can do something that hurts them, but because they trust me, they let it go. And I think that if I lose that, that's it. But that's my
sometimes, but also you have to build that trust. They have to have it amongst each other.
Yes.
Otherwise, they don't support each other. They don't have each other's backs. They undermine each other. That's why the trust becomes so important.
We're talking to Taka Awori, and we're looking at building winning teams for SMEs, but really for all kinds of companies. She's already separated or distinguished a group from a team, given the features and some common challenges that leaders face. This is not an exhaustive list. There are many, many challenges as well.
Sure.
So what should a leader do?
Okay, to get a winning team.
Yes.
Many things, but I'm going to pick out very quickly 5. So the first one is one I always sing about. It's from Jim Collins. Get the right people on the bus. When you have the opportunity, select who join, and when you have the opportunity to select who joins the team, select well, choose well. Too often, we look just on experience and skills. We're looking at that nice CV. This one has a PhD from where, MBA from where. And yes, experience and skills and certifications matter. But you must also pay attention to values and attitudes. Culture fit. So if you're particularly focusing on teamwork, a good principle that I picked up from Patrick Lencioni is he says, look for people who are humble, hungry, and smart.
I like that.
Humble because they've managed their egos, so they're willing to collaborate and work with others. Hungry because they're eager to learn constantly. They want to make a difference. They're not just set in their ways. And finally, naturally, you want folks who they're smart.
So humble, hungry,
and smart. Patrick Lencioni.
I have to write that down.
Because these are people who always be more concerned about the greater good than their own. So select well. Again, when we invest too much time on degrees and experience, so focus on that fit. But that also means then burnout. That if someone is not the right fit, they're not being a good team player.
They gotta go.
They gotta go. You gotta get them off the bus. So learn how to get people off the bus. So that's the first one. Second one is about let's continue with the bus metaphor, getting the right people in the right seats. Okay. I know you're such a football fan, so let me just use that football and disgrace myself. They're in the right positions. Avoid putting square pegs into round holes. And then once you've done that, make sure everybody's clear about who's doing what. It seems so obvious, but I've seen so much conflict in teams where it's like, but I thought I was supposed to do that, but you told so-and-so to do that, but this one is taking my job, he's too known, why is he doing all of that? So this avoids role conflict. But also people need to appreciate the interdependence of what they do. That becomes particularly key. How have you had to struggle with this one in terms of getting right people in the...
So I have 2 challenges. Because of what I do, I see people different. So I'm a morning show host.
Okay.
So I am looking for people who can help me deliver a conversation.
Okay.
Sometimes other people in the leadership are looking for different things. So one of the things we need to do is to synchronize our objectives, right? So for example, if you have a management team of a sales manager, a programs manager, a general manager, an HR manager discussing somebody to come and join me on the show, they are all solving from different parts. One of the things we try and do is to make sure you're on the same page.
There you go.
All right. Otherwise, we would all be... Because when I was an investor, I remember we had an executive committee where we're sort of choosing people to replace us. And there were lots of arguments because The secretary was looking for somebody who could do this. So everybody was looking for different people.
Yes.
So that's one. In my own like choice of people to work with me, chemistry is very important. Chemistry is very important because it's very informal. So even though we're discussing national issues, you don't necessarily have to be tight friends, but it has to be.
You have to flow. There needs to be
because the cream flows to the top. So the best way to spawn good ideas is to have a conversation. So, for example, during the commercial break, we're having a random conversation. Then something will come out. So I look out for those things, right? If I'm looking for a numbers guy, I don't just want somebody who's just good behind a machine and can type a lot. I want somebody who is relatable because people can feel that.
Yeah, but do you see what you therefore have? You have clarity about what you're looking for.
Oh, yes.
Huh? Yeah. And too often, I find that as SMEs, we don't invest enough time in that clarity. Or if when we do, because we may not be able to afford to pay for the kind of quality we're looking for, we go for, cheap and cheerful. But really, it's not what we're looking for. And so sometimes you need to get creative. So you might decide, this is what I'm looking for. I can't afford them full-time, but maybe I could afford them part-time while they do other things.
So we're also very flexible. That's a very good point because I noticed that in the talent industry, some of the best people do a lot of things.
Yes.
So you have to create space. I mean, one of my guys is a lawyer. He's doing his law.
Yes.
Another one writes for a certain magazine globally. They do all kinds of things because if you want to assemble the best, and the economy we're in, you have to be flexible.
That's it.
Right? But the point is that they should also not be skiving.
Yes, you have to manage them well.
So you can't kind of say, okay, well, I'm doing this, that, and that, and that, yeah. So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes of my time.
Yes.
When you are here, you have to be here.
Fully here.
Because I respect you first, and then you need to respect me as well.
Yes.
So that understanding has to be there.
Yes.
So that, yes, you are not here all day,
the time,
but when you are here, you have to be here.
Be fully here.
Yes.
And have clear deliverables and expectations.
Yes.
There's a whole art to managing. It's like how you manage people who work remotely. It's not the same way as having them all the time.
We'll take a break here and come back. We're talking to Taka Awori. We're just working our way through building winning teams for SMEs. Very, very important principle. She said, get the right people on the bus. We like the bus analogy. We're still within the point 2 or principle 2 of role selection and clarity. We'll deal with that when we come back and continue with other points. Stay with us. Welcome back to day 4 of our week 2. We're talking SME. My guest, Taka Awori, Busara Africa, leading others with wisdom.
Yes.
She's released a new book, Leadership in Africa, a great read, less than 300 pages, about 280 something. You need to get that book and read. Really, really insightful book. Today we're talking about building a winning team from the SME's perspective. So on principle 2, you spoke about role selection and clarity, and I shared my own views about this. You said avoid putting square pegs in round holes.
Yeah.
What else do you have to say about the second principle?
I would just say that make sure people understand the interdependence of their roles. Again, we're talking about teams. Too many people want to act again like they're the individual soul. So getting people to recognize that what you deliver, what you do will affect other people. So yes, you need to have clarity on what your role is, but understand how your role will then affect somebody else's role. So be mindful of that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now let's come to the third principle.
So this is one that often we haven't been so used to, but it's around focusing on collective results.
Okay.
Now, for many of us who've been working in the formal space, we're used to holding people accountable on individual results. So continue to do that. So for instance, for you, Bernard, for each of the people that you're managing, continue to have individual objectives that you set at the beginning of the year, and then you hold them accountable on that. But what I'm saying is, to build a winning team, you complement that with establishing collective team results. Now imagine, therefore, that means you will complement the individual appraisals with team appraisals.
Wow.
So at the end of the year, And then we're going to talk through what that might look like in practice for you. At the end of the year or mid-year or actually periodically, you would be monitoring to say, as a team, how far have we gone in achieving these team objectives? That's one. But two, each person on the team then gets appraised on their level of teamwork and collaboration within the team.
That's so powerful. I was just thinking about the camera crew here.
Okay.
So there's a light guy, there's a sound guy, there's a floor guy, there's a director, there's a producer.
Okay.
A lot of times you notice everybody's fighting their own corner. Once the sound is great, I'm okay. Once the light is great, I'm okay. So you're right. If we said, you know what, sound is great, light is great, floor is okay, but there's something wrong with what we saw on TV.
So what would be their team objective? How would you define it?
So the show must go without any production hitch.
There you go.
The right camera angles, the right shots, right, text.
There
And there are some things that weld together. So I'm very happy you're saying this. So it means that at the end of the day, we can evaluate the whole team.
Yes.
And it's possible for individuals to also do the right things.
Yes.
But because we're not working collaboratively, you will still have a poor outcome.
Yeah, if there was a hitch, then you're all responsible.
Because a good example is, let's assume the floor manager wants to bring something to the host.
Okay.
Right? And then she informs somebody up there, but doesn't inform another person behind the camera. He doesn't adjust his camera right, and then you have a problem.
Interdependence.
It's very, very critical.
Do you see?
Very powerful.
So when people, but it really takes shifting their minds because, as you said, most people are just focused, is my lighting right? Is the sound right? Is my camera right? Their own little thing. That's starting to say that, yes, I will ask you about the lighting, but I am also, all of you together, I'm going to say, did you achieve? How many shows went off without a hitch?
And this is very important for large organizations, like, for example, for our business. A lot of times you have tensions between programs and sales. Do you get it? Because they sort of solve for different things. One depends on the other, though. So it's very important for people in programs to know that at the end of the day, it's not about how great the program is. It also has to sell.
Yes.
Right? And then the sales guys will have to know that selling is great, but there has to be a certain raw material to sell.
Yes.
There's always tension there. So it's a very, very powerful point to make.
So you know what you would add to the team objective, in addition to having flawless production, how well they collaborated with other teams. Because this is the other thing I find in organizations. You have silos.
Yes.
So you might have a fantastic, as you said, program team, fantastic marketing team, but they're not speaking to each other. But if you add it to their team objective, they will organize themselves to say who continuously has to speak to that one, who has to speak, so that you are not just having strong teams, you're also having strong teams working within other teams in the organization.
And I think that depends a lot on the leader and the tone they set.
100%.
Because if you sort of pitch people against each other, then you are making a mistake. So what you try and do is to listen to everybody and say, look, by the way, you guys are on the same team.
Yes.
And then, as you said, you give them, you assess them on collective.
Totally.
Yes, I think it's very, very powerful point.
So that's the third one, yeah?
Collective results.
Then fourth one is coach them, back to your football, coach them to play well together. And this is what you were alluding to earlier about, for instance, managing conflicts.
Yes,
that's the first one,
Yes, I think that's very important, because when you work in a talent-driven team, there's a lot of strong egos.
Yeesh.
And so one of the things you learn to do is to this what's the word to use? You diffuse.
Yes.
You don't suppress.
No.
Let people
That's
talk.
Energy, yes.
But find a way of getting them to work together. I think it's actually a very strong leadership challenge.
Yes. And skill that needs to be developed, therefore.
Yes.
Facilitating. Because we always say in our world that conflict is not necessarily bad. It's how it's managed. Because conflict is natural. So therefore, a key leadership skill then, as you said, is to manage it, not put it under the table. Because what I see often in many of our organizations, particularly in an African context, we like this, what do we call it? I call it fake harmony.
Yes.
Where everybody says, hey, it's okay, it's okay, we're all fine. You step out of the meeting room, and then there's all the gossiping in the corridor. And so I think a key skill is to bring corridor conversation on gossip from the corridor to the boardroom or the proper formal space, so it can be dealt with in a healthy way. That's something that one has to do to build a winning team, as you coach them to play well.
Talking about coaching, I saw a very interesting quote about I think it's an American football team, and I think that the person said, good coaches have a pre-game plan.
Okay.
Great coaches do halftime adjustments. Thought I was
It's amazing because things happen.
Yeah.
So you might realize I need a time adjustment to be able to deal with this issue. But you notice we're using the word coaching.
Yes.
Because there are different times where you might need to be directive as you're setting the vision.
Okay.
But when you're getting people to play well, yes, you may have to say you play this or you're out in terms of values. But there's a lot about understanding people, facilitating them, as you said, giving them space to speak, unearth issues. Otherwise, if you're just all about commanding, you push things under the table.
Are you distinguishing coaching from, say, managing? Is that what are you using coaching in a more
as a leadership? I'm using it as a leadership style.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you clearly see, if I see there's something going on with Bernard and Kojo, and then I'm not even saying you guys stop it. What do? They'll just cover up and they'll never let you see what's going on. But if I call them back in, a coaching style, you start with questions. Guys, what's going on? I want to hear you each. Then I ask them, how do you think you need to solve this?
Okay.
Do you see? So that's a lot more of a coaching style, which is useful when you want to get to the bottom of issues.
The question there, though, is a lot of leaders have many battles they fight.
Yeah.
So he's in charge of a small fintech.
Yeah.
He's dealing with government regulation.
I know.
The tax guys are on his neck, right? He strategizes with his team and he believes they know where the business is going.
Yeah.
He says, I don't need this at this time, right?
Yeah.
I have a big meeting with some guys who want to give us money, and my two managers can't work with each other. Like you're saying, be collaborative, coach them.
I
like,
know,
I don't
it takes
have time.
time.
Like, why do I have to
feeling.
stop this big deal and kind of ask the two of you like kids? You know, it's almost like, I just want you to emphasize the importance of that, because a lot of leaders feel like, I don't want to waste, I don't have time for this.
Yes. And then they don't. And then it's like sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
When you have a winning team, it's like you have a sharp saw to achieve the results.
Okay.
When your people are busy fighting, undermining each other, it's like you're working with a blunt saw. So yes, I fully appreciate you're busy, it's annoying, it's irritating, but it's worth it in terms of the better use. It's worth it in the long run. Let's call it that way. In the short run, it's expensive, but it's worth it in the long run. But let me emphasize this. Remember I talked in the beginning about at some point you might need to get people off the bus?
Yeah.
You coach, but not forever.
Okay.
Not forever.
Okay.
You coach in the beginning, but you're clear at the end. You're like, guys, this is how we roll around here. These are our values in this company. So I'm supporting you to work this out, but in a week, 2 weeks, I don't need to see this again. And if I see this behavior continuing after
So
again,
that's more intuitive. You know when this is...
Yes.
So maybe they cross a line or it just gets in. It's not working.
That's it. That's it.
Not working.
And as you do that, please document. Keep writing. Yeah, because you don't want to get into trouble.
So you have memos, you have... So you need to... You don't just arbitrarily just get up.
No.
Of course, there are some offenses that you know. Theft,
Sure.
But you're saying that if it has to do with people's fit,
yes,
you have to...
Exactly. Document. Show that you've coached. Show that you've tried. But it has to end at a certain point if it's
And I actually feel like, sometimes when you do it well, the person actually will thank you. Because there are instances where this person doesn't fit into this organization.
Totally.
But they feel like they have to work here because that's the only opportunity they have.
Yes.
If you do it properly, one day they'll come back and say, look, it was very good you fired me because it helped me rethink.
Yes.
So I think that's a very important process that should not be mismanaged. Of course, you can't cuddle people throughout, but you have to. Anyway, so this is point number 4. Coach them well to play together.
Yes.
And then, of course, communication is critical.
Yes, communication is critical. We've talked about clear values and expectations for all of them, yeah? Let me come to the last one.
Yeah.
It's something you've alluded to. It's creating a conducive environment for them to thrive. And let me give you an example. I worked with a team leader once who, she had an absolutely amazing team, collaborating fantastically. But they worked in a bigger company that was literally cutthroat, competitive, toxic, undermine. So each time the team would try and do things differently, they'd get back into the bigger, company atmosphere, and they'd be like, nah, this is not working. The other thing that they would also see is that, just what you alluded to, you're saying, as leaders, you have to set the tone for what needs to happen within other teams. So we talked about breaking silos. So having different departments start to work with each other. If they can see that within the senior management team, they are not working together, they are not a team, why do you expect that the different... Exactly, yeah? So the conducive environment means, one, you model it right from the top, but the broader organizational culture has to be one that's collaborative and rewards collaboration. It's not rewarding the divas, what did you call them, the ones who are always the prima donnas. If people start to see that that's what's rewarded in the organization, and collaboration is seen as, you are a wuss, why are you even doing that, who cares about that, then they won't do that. So it's create an enabling environment for that to happen. Provide resources for the team to succeed, coach them, all of that. So that's the final principle.
So there's a responsibility on leadership, not just the atmosphere, but also the resource.
That's it.
The resources for them to work.
make sure that they thrive. Otherwise, they get frustrated, and they're like, what's even the point? So again, perfect example. You put a team together to organize the staff retreat. You give them no resources, no time, no backing. They'll be like, what's the point? We can't even do this thing well. It's just going to be a failed achievement. So that's the kind of resourcing and support teams.
So you're giving me 5 bullet points for building winning teams. We can just go through for those who tune in late or those who have not been following.
So number 1, get the right people on the bus. Select the right people to be part of the team. Don't just look for expertise and skills. Also look for the right fit in terms of attitude and values. Number 2, get the right people in the right seats. Make sure people are playing to their strengths. They're in the right roles. Number 3, focus on collective results. Don't just appraise people on their individual, compliment by ensuring they're praised against team collaboration and achieving things collectively. 4, coach them to play well together, particularly paying attention to things like conflict. And 5, create a conducive environment for them to thrive.
So to end, of all the things a company has, from the idea itself to its physical resources to the product and to its people, would you seriously say that the people are the most important resource?
100%.
You even blink an eye?
I don't even blink an eye. Blink an eye. It's all about your people. It is all about your people.
Irrespective of the industry.
Well, no, it depends on the industry. No, for sure. I mean, if your thing is about selling widgets, then maybe it's about the quality of your widgets, but you still need people to sell them.
But generally,
put them central. They should always be central. And so that's why, to me, leadership is about people.
My reflection, I was talking to the team last week, and it just occurred to me that of all the resources of a company, people are the only resource that appreciates. And I was saying that, for example, if you bought a car or you built a studio or you bought a camera, as soon as you buy it, it begins to depreciate.
That's powerful.
But the only thing so you could pick somebody who started out as a security guy, you train him to do floor management, now he's a camera guy, he's a director. Wow. So in 10 years, you've added value to the person.
Wow.
So I was like, if human beings are the most important resource, they basically means they are the ones that can appreciate in value.
But the key word is they can.
If you
do the right thing, if you have the right leadership like you have done.
Yes.
But I have walked into companies. It's not easy, I know.
We try.
But you walk into companies and people have depreciated.
That is funny, because for me, I would have said that if you are in a company that's not adding value to you, you have to leave.
But you know the reality of the economy. People will always say, but
if you're not growing in an organization, then you have to have an exit plan.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So because my personal view is that there's always somewhere that you will thrive.
For sure.
And the point is that you may not always start from there.
Sure.
So you could be in an organization that has nothing to do with your skill sets, but there are a few things you have to learn.
Sure.
So you can still give off your best.
Sure. And you can still be willing to learn and look for opportunities. Yeah. Because to me, progression and appreciation is not necessarily about always moving up. Because with SMEs, we're fairly flat.
Yeah.
How many levels can you actually move up? But if you're learning new things, if you're gaining exposure, if you're not the same person you were 5 years ago, then you can say you've appreciated.
I set out to interview you, but it looks like you've interviewed me.
Yes, I have. It's always a joy.
That was your plan.
That was my plan. them?
It's a good idea because sometimes in discussions, more insights come up.
Yes.
I've been talking to Taka Awori of Busa Africa. Before you go, though, how can people get in touch with you? What's your website? How can people reach you?
So it's busara-africa.com. And do connect with me also on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, all using my name.
So that's Taaka Awori.
Yes.
And Busara, Busara, Africa.
Africa.
Dash is very important.
Africa.com.
Wonderful. Thank you for listening
Thank
to
you.
another edition of the show. My name is Bernard Avle.